During the college entrance exam, my so-called best friend awakened a strange ability. She could hear my thoughts. She relied on my internal answers to breeze through the exam and handed in her paper early. As she left, she accidentally brushed against me, knocking a note from my pocket. In the end, she was accepted into Peking University, while I was accused of cheating. My academic future shattered. I had no choice but to head south and work at an electronics factory in. Exhausted in both body and spirit, I was eventually harassed by a disgusting man on the assembly line. While struggling to escape, I fell to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my senior year in high school, and this time, I came equipped with a mind-reading shield system. I, Tara Price, will take back everything that was mine. Tara, the college entrance exam is coming up, but it's been so noisy in the dorm lately. I can't get a good night's sleep, it's going to ruin my test. Melina, who sat in front of me, turned around and pouted at me like a child. Those lips of hers were so ridiculously pouty, you could probably slice them up and serve 2 cold dishes. I put my book down and looked at the so-called best friend in front of me. Thinking of the tragedy from my past life, I could barely resist slamming her to the ground and giving her a few good slaps. That note she knocked out of my pocket really was in my handwriting. I had no way to explain it. Later, she gleefully told me the truth, and in my fury, I went to the police. But when I told them she had mind-reading powers, they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "We're trained professionals," one officer said. "No matter how funny it sounds, we won't laugh." Then the moment I stepped outside, I heard them erupting into laughter behind the door. Melina frowned, eyes filled with confusion and suspicion. She must have just realized, she couldn't hear my thoughts anymore. "If you're not sleeping well, go take some melatonin or something. What do you expect me to do about it?" I shot back without a hint of politeness, and threw in a dramatic eye roll for good measure. Melina was clearly rattled. She slammed her desk. "Tara, do you have to be so mean? When did you become so harsh? If you want sweet talk, there's a theater 2 kilometers to the left. I'm memorizing stuff now, so could you kindly turn that massive pie of a face back around?" Melina had never been shut down by me like this before. Her eyes welled up immediately. Melina and I had been classmates since middle school. When I saw her in the same class in high school, I was genuinely happy. I'm someone who values old connections. In unfamiliar places, running into someone familiar always felt like fate. In high school, I realized how important grades were and began working hard. My performance improved rapidly. Melina, on the other hand, was average at best. I tutored her often. After school, I'd help her finish her homework before going home to deal with my own. Even though it made my nights longer and left me exhausted, I felt it was worth it, for a friend. I had no idea I was feeding a wolf in sheep's clothing. Back then, just before the college exam, she pitifully poured her heart out to me. Feeling sorry for her, I invited her to stay at my house. Even though my family wasn't well off, I gave her the best I had. But in return, she tore out pages of my notes and secretly stuffed them into my jacket pocket. Stealing my knowledge wasn't enough, she had to ruin my future too? When I confronted her, she laughed like a wild chrysanthemum caught in the wind. "Tara, I've always hated you. Why are your grades so good? Why do all the teachers like you? Even my dream guy, Zachary, likes you. All of that should have been mine. Mine, my ass. My grades were the result of sleepless nights and relentless effort. The teachers liked me because I worked hard and kept out of trouble. As for Zachary liking me, huh? To be honest, I wasn't totally sure if Zachary had feelings for me. He was the class monitor, smart, well-mannered, and good-looking. Since we were both focused on studying, we often worked on problems together. Sometimes, I'd glance up and catch him staring at me, lost in thought. I could sense that he liked me, but I wasn't entirely certain. With the exam approaching, neither of us brought it up. We had a silent agreement not to cross that line. In my past life, after being branded a cheater, I lost everything. Ashamed and unwilling to face anyone, I changed my number and ran south to find work. Even my family didn't know where I had gone. I had no idea if Zachary ever tried to look for me. But he was a golden boy. If I had reached out, it would have only made things awkward. "Melina, why are you crying?" Zachary's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. He was asking Melina, but his eyes were on me. "It's nothing, class rep. I think Tara's just in a bad mood lately, that's why she snapped at me." Before I could say anything, Melina started sobbing. Wow. She could supply a whole tea plantation all by herself. I had just been given a second chance at life. My temper wasn't going to be soft and kind. Even if an ant blocked my path, I'd chase it down just for the principle of it. "You're wrong. I didn't snap at you because I was upset. I snapped at you because I wanted to. Tara, you've gone too far." Melina leapt to her feet, furious. A few seconds later, she squeezed out 2 tears and gave Zachary a pitiful look. But that look quickly faded when she saw Zachary's reaction. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Melina, I think this is just a misunderstanding between classmates. Don't take it to heart. I turned to look at him. Huh, not bad. Maybe he had some sense after all. Perhaps my death glare startled him. He quickly averted his eyes and hurried off, ears tinged red. How adorable. Way better than those greasy creeps on the assembly line. I glanced back at Melina, whose nostrils were flaring in anger. Melina, are your nostrils hungry? They look like they're begging to be fed. I blinked innocently and asked with all sincerity. Melina gave me a sharp humph and turned her head away, sulking. Yet she kept stealing glances at me from different angles. With that constipated expression on her face, it was obvious, she was trying to read my thoughts. Does she think her head's an antenna? What, is the signal bad? Even if she twisted her neck into a pretzel and carried a satellite dish on her back, she'd never hear what's in my head again. After school, Melina stopped me. Tara, can you help me with today's homework? Melina spoke hesitantly, as if she were afraid I'd breathe fire at her the moment I opened my mouth. I snatched the papers from her hand without hesitation. Sure thing. That actually threw her off. She stared at me suspiciously. Tara, you're acting weird today. What was up with you this morning? I casually slung my backpack over my shoulder and gave her a toothy grin. Oh, just exam stress. The doctor said I've got a mental disorder. You know, snapping at people, throwing punches, losing it once in a while, it's all normal. I'm now a clinically unstable senior student, how exciting. With that, I lifted my mighty leg, hopped on my bike, and rode off in style, leaving Melina standing in the wind, dazed and disheveled. The next morning, just as the bell rang, our math teacher walked down from the podium to check homework. Melina turned around and tapped on my desk. Tara, give me my homework. Quick. I spread my hands, innocent as could be. Shouldn't your homework be with you? Why would I have it? She stared at me wide-eyed, disbelief written all over her face. Tara, stop messing around. Give it to me, he's coming. I gave her a sweet smile and nudged my desk mate. Isn't Melina hilarious? What a joker. Our math teacher, Mr. John, who also happened to be the grade director, was strict as steel. Everyone feared him. Now he was walking toward us, and Melina's face was burning with panic. Melina, where's your homework? His expression was stern, and the displeasure in his eyes sent chills down everyone's spine. Sir, my homework, it's with Tara? I don't know. She stammered awkwardly, then shot me a furious glare. I pointed at her desk drawer, faking surprise. Melina, your homework's right here. Mr. John quickly pulled it out, and of course, the pages were completely blank. To the back of the classroom. Now. Melina's eyes blazed with fury. As she walked past me, she hissed under her breath, Tara, you'll regret this. After class, I heard Melina's bright, flirtatious laughter. I turned around and saw her standing beside Zachary. They were standing close, too close. His eyes sparkled with delight. With every word Melina said, Zachary's smile deepened. So this was the benefit of mind reading, huh? Getting to peek into someone's heart without permission. But what about the ones being read? Were they happy, or disgusted? I put on my earbuds and tuned out their chirpy little conversation. Another day of noise and drama. Just as I was deeply focused on solving a problem, a hand landed on my scratch paper. Tara, I'm going to the bookstore with Zachary after school. I looked up. Melina beamed at me, all sunshine and sparkle. Classic Melina. Anytime I refused to go along with her, she'd immediately cozy up to the people I cared about. With little schemes and subtle digs, she'd gradually isolate me. Once, during an exam, she sat behind me and demanded I write my answers where she could see them. I didn't want to cheat, especially with the invigilator standing so close. After the exam, she mocked me mercilessly, as if her failure was all my fault. Then she showered my friends with gifts and flattery. Anytime one of them tried to talk or hang out with me, she'd pop up like a flea and pull them away. Those days were miserable, I felt like a pariah. And those who accepted her bribes? Most of them stopped taking my side. I picked up my pen and drew a big, fat X on the back of her hand. Ow. That hurts. Tara, are you crazy? I smacked my own forehead. Oh no, must be my eyes playing tricks. What was that claw doing on my paper? At that moment, Zachary walked over. Melina instantly switched to her sweet girl persona. Class rep, let's go. If we're late, the bookstore might be closed. I kept my head down, still scribbling, but my chest felt a little tight. Zachary nodded and walked with her toward the door. Then, I heard footsteps returning. I just remembered, I promised Tara we'd do a practice test together. Sorry, Melina. You'll have to go on your own. I looked up sharply. Zachary smiled awkwardly, set down his bag, and took the seat beside me. Melina stood frozen at the door, lips bitten in frustration. What? But didn't you really want to go to the bookstore today? Her tone was full of certainty. I glanced at Zachary. Well, yeah. But I already promised Tara. I should keep my word. With that, he reached for my scratch paper. Tara, about this question. I glanced down, and saw my scribbles all over it. Humph, ugh, tch. My face flushed. In a flash, I slapped my hand over the paper. You saw nothing. Your eyes were playing tricks. Zachary let out a quiet laugh and took off his glasses. Right. I saw absolutely nothing. Now take out the test sheet, we're doing it together. Melina stood stiffly in the doorway, completely ignored. After a moment, she let out a humph and left. I nudged Zachary with my pen. Hey, when exactly did I promise to do a practice test with you? Did I actually lose my mind? Why couldn't I remember anything? Zachary cleared his throat. I think it was yesterday. But yesterday was the weekend. Why couldn't I remember? My head itched. Was my brain growing? Maybe it really was time to see a psychiatrist. Thanks to her mind reading, Melina quickly became the class darling. She was constantly surrounded by swarms of classmates. And she didn't seem the least bit bothered. She soaked in the attention every day, but her grades, which had been decent before, were now slipping fast. Meanwhile, I waited for the day I'd reach the top and crush her beneath my feet. There's a faster way to solve this one. It'll save you a lot of time. Zachary leaned in and whispered by my ear. He was close, so close that the tips of my ears started to burn. Zachary, my friend gave me 2 tickets to your favorite play. Let's go see it after school. Melina suddenly appeared out of nowhere, eyes trained on Zachary's reaction. Zachary glanced at me, looking troubled. But I promised Tara. Oh come on, class rep, you bailed on me last time. You have to go today. You know how hard it is to get these tickets, and you've wanted to see this for ages. Come on, let's go. Melina twisted her body like a pretzel, tossing a smug glance my way. All right, Zachary finally said, I'll send you the money for the ticket later. Melina's lips curled in triumph as she shot me another victorious look. Zachary went back to his seat and started packing up. Melina leaned in close to me. Tara, you know, she said smugly, if I just spend more time with Zachary, he'll definitely fall for me soon. I frowned and pinched my nose. Melina, do you know something? You have terrible breath. Her face turned beet red. Say that again and I'll tell the teacher. I transformed into a master of sarcasm. Ooh. What's going on, Tara? Zachary walked over with his bag slung over one shoulder. Looking at the two of them standing together, about to go see that play, I felt a sudden wave of irritation. Nothing much, I replied, deadpan. Just working on my rap. Oh? It sounds pretty good. Zachary chuckled and walked out of the classroom with Melina. Pretty good? I shivered. Could Zachary's taste really be that awful? Was something wrong with his brain? Turns out, I had just cursed him, and it came true. The next morning, Zachary didn't show up to class. The homeroom teacher informed us that he'd been hit by an electric scooter the night before and suffered a head injury. I was completely distracted all morning and had to chug a massive cup of coffee just to stay focused in class. By lunchtime, I rushed to the hospital and found Melina already there. Well, that was fast, she sneered from the hallway. I ignored her and reached out to push the door open. I already know what Zachary's true feelings are. Wanna hear? I turned around. Why are you so full of crap? You're literally the reason the air quality's been so bad these past few days. Melina frowned and clenched her teeth, like someone who hadn't pooped for a week. But she quickly replaced her expression with one of smug triumph. Zachary likes me. You should give up already. He's tired of you chasing him, can't you tell? Oh, is that so? I sneered, grabbed her arm, and yanked her into the hospital room. What are you doing? Zachary, look, she's crazy again. Zachary, I said clearly, Melina claims you like her and that you're sick of me. Is that true? My voice rang through the room like a bell. Melina's eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. She thought I was still the same old Tara, someone who would believe whatever she said, stew in self-doubt, and never ask for proof. Not anymore. Back in my first year of high school, I had stayed in the dorms for convenience. It was my first time living away from home, and everything felt new. My family told me to get along with my roommates and not to be too sensitive. So I often bought snacks and supplies to share with them. At first, things were great. We got along well, laughed, and bonded. But gradually, I noticed a shift. They stopped calling me to class, stopped inviting me to meals. Confused and hurt, I confided in Melina, who was also my roommate. She spoke with great animation, telling me the others had been talking behind my back, saying I was boring and only knew how to study. She comforted me, saying they were just jealous, and that she'd stick with me from now on, we didn't need them. Still, the dorm atmosphere became unbearable. Eventually, I discussed it with my family and moved out. Years later, after graduation, I ran into one of my old roommates in the city where I was working. I couldn't hold back anymore. I asked her what had happened. And that's when everything became clear. It had all been fabricated by Melina. She'd been speaking badly of me to both sides, painting herself as the only one who truly cared. Given another life, I would never again be a coward who hid away, deceived by a few cleverly placed words. I would only believe what I saw and heard with my own eyes and ears. With that thought, I steeled myself and turned to face Zachary. His eyes were rimmed red, shimmering with unshed tears. I panicked. Wait, was I too loud just now? I coughed awkwardly and took a step back. When I glanced at Melina, the shock on her face had already faded. That same familiar scorn had taken its place. Tara, Zachary is injured, and you're still yelling? Ugh, Zachary, don't blame her. She's been unstable lately. Her voice dropped, full of fake sympathy. Here we go again, dog barking nonsense. I was just about to rip into her again when Zachary's sudden tears stopped me in my tracks. Tara, is it really you? His voice trembled. I met his gaze, and my heart skipped. Tears clung to his long lashes, and in those clear eyes shimmered a light I hadn't seen in so long, like he was holding a miracle. I swallowed hard and gathered my courage to step forward. Yes, I'm Tara. 18 years old. Female. Parents alive. Address? Suddenly, he grabbed my hand. I nearly dropped to my knees in shock. Zachary, are you okay? I pointed cautiously at his head. Zachary didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a tissue and reached up to wipe the sweat from my brow. Why did you run like that? There's no rush. Don't wear yourself out. As he struggled to sit up, I quickly took the tissue from him to help. Off to the side, Melina let out a quiet, huh? Only then did I remember how loudly I'd confronted Zachary just moments ago. My cheeks flushed hot. Zachary finally seemed to notice her. His gaze turned toward her, icy cold, like he was staring down an enemy. Wait, did Melina have something to do with the accident last night? That didn't make sense. She was still chasing after him, why would she hurt him? Melina, Zachary said calmly. Her eyes lit up with excitement. She walked to the bedside and deliberately bumped me aside. Such a walking red flag. I could never like you. The smile froze on Melina's face. She stared at him in disbelief. What? Zachary spoke slowly and clearly. You heard me. Zachary, will never, ever like you. I had never seen Zachary so cold, so unyielding. He had always been like a spring breeze, polite, gentle, kind. Melina stood there stunned, until her eyes finally turned red with tears. She didn't say another word. She simply shot me a hateful glare and stormed out. What's with the death glare, sis? What, even Zachary's fart sounds sweeter than anything I say. After she left, Zachary handed me a small dog-shaped trinket with a playful design. I saw this after the play and thought of you. I figured you'd like it. I took it, my heart a complicated tangle of emotions. How did you get hurt? Melina said she wanted to take a look at it, but she dropped it on the road. I bent down to pick it up and... Zachary's voice trailed off, soft and guilty like a kid who'd broken something precious. Thank you. I really do like it. I looked at him and smiled. Zachary's injuries weren't serious. After just a week, he was back in school. But I quickly noticed something strange, more and more people were starting to flock around Melina. Melina, how did you know I wanted this? Thank you so much. Melina, I love the book you gave me. You're so thoughtful. During breaks, her desk was swarmed with classmates. Even Zachary, who used to be one of the most popular students, now seemed surrounded by silence. You did great on that quiz the other day. Really impressive. Zachary sat beside me, resting his chin on one hand as he smiled at me. Thanks, class rep, but I should thank you for tutoring me in math. Let me treat you to lunch today, how about it? I flipped through the math test, heart quietly swelling with joy. My hard work was finally paying off. What a shameless girl. The words drifted in from the back of the classroom, Melina's voice, not loud, but not soft either. Ever since Zachary returned to school, Melina had tried flirting with him a few times. But each time, he either pretended not to hear or responded with frosty indifference. Frustrated, she turned her resentment on both of us. Her jealousy had begun to rot into venom. I stood up and marched toward her with an air of quiet fury. What are you doing? Melina stiffened, her voice trembling. Who exactly is shameless? I asked with a cold smile. Why don't you enlighten us? God, I've lived a second life and still have to hear her whispering behind my back? I swear, if it weren't illegal, I'd smash her with a brick. That's right, Melina. Zachary stepped up beside me, face firm with righteous calm. If someone's being shameless, tell us who. We'll report it to the teacher. The entire room fell silent. Melina opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She just stood there, flustered. Anyone who wastes time in senior year slandering others, that's the real disgrace. One by one, the crowd around her dispersed and returned to their seats. I leaned down and whispered near her ear, "Zachary and I are together now. So, how does it feel to lose?" Melina glared at me, rage in her eyes. I glared right back, unbothered. The next class was homeroom. The teacher's voice was sharp and stern. "We're already in the final sprint before exams. I can't believe some students in other classes are still dating. Let me be very clear, no such behavior will be tolerated in this class. If anyone's caught, they'll be expelled on the spot." After school, Zachary and I intentionally lingered behind, moving slowly as the classroom emptied. Once outside the gates, I waved at him. "Meet me on the rooftop terrace at lunch tomorrow. It's always quiet there." Zachary smiled knowingly. The next day, just as we sat down on the rooftop, the door burst open. "Teacher, they're right here." Melina's voice cut off abruptly. Standing on the terrace were two students from the neighboring class, looking completely bewildered as our homeroom teacher and Melina stormed in. Zachary calmly paused his English listening track and looked up in confusion. "Teacher? What's going on?" Melina's panic was written all over her face. "No, this can't be right. You two were meeting here in secret?" "What are you talking about?" one of the other students snapped. "The four of us have been practicing listening comprehension here for 2 days now. Who gave you the right to accuse us?" That was Lucas, a top student in the neighboring class, and notoriously short-tempered. The homeroom teacher's expression fell. He turned his disapproving gaze on Melina. "Melina, your focus clearly isn't on studying. What's with this wild speculation?" I stepped forward at just the right moment, my eyes brimming with a touch of innocent hurt. "Melina, is there some misunderstanding between us? Lately, you've been..." I let the sentence hang, leaving the rest to their imaginations. Our homeroom teacher had always hated rumors, and Melina's plummeting grades hadn't escaped his notice either. "Melina, your performance dropped by 20 ranks last time. I've been meaning to speak with you. Bring your parents tomorrow." "My dad's really busy." "Then I'll call him myself." I glanced at Melina's pale, terrified expression and felt a rush of satisfaction. I had met her father once or twice. His temper was horrible. Once, when Melina snuck out of the dorms and stayed out all night, he slapped her across the face right in front of a teacher. If I couldn't lay a finger on her, then I'd gladly let someone else do it for me. The next morning, before class had even ended, Melina's father arrived at the door. I turned around and looked at her. She sat rigidly at her desk, head bowed, not daring to glance up. As soon as the bell rang, the sharp-eyed homeroom teacher spotted her father and gestured for her to follow him to the office. Melina reluctantly dragged herself after them. A few curious students trailed behind to peek through the office windows. Naturally, I joined them, milk tea in hand. Smack. A sharp, satisfying sound rang out right on cue. Melina's head whipped to the side, a red handprint blooming across her cheek. Her gaze swept the hallway, then locked onto mine. Like a snake scenting blood. "Her dad's really scary. Getting slapped in public? That's so humiliating." Well, she tried to frame the class rep and those other students. Honestly, she kind of deserved it. The eavesdropping students whispered to each other. The teachers inside couldn't hear them. But Melina, with her mind-reading powers? She definitely could. When she returned to class, still bearing the handprint, her mood was visibly foul. Compared to the smooth success of her previous life, this time she was really spiraling. Some of her former friends timidly approached her to offer comfort. "Melina, are you okay?" "Of course I'm not, you idiot. If I slapped you across the face, would you be okay?" "Melina, that's uncalled for. Colleen was just trying to be nice." Colleen's desk mate, Emily, finally couldn't take it and spoke up. Melina's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Emily, cut the act. Playing the caring bestie, huh? Didn't you tell me you were jealous of Colleen after she outscored you on the last exam?" Emily's face turned bright red. I didn't." Colleen turned toward Emily with a suspicious look in her eyes, one that was hard to miss. Melina seemed to have found a release valve, her voice growing louder and more animated. "You do feel that way? Acting all calm on the outside, but secretly jealous in your heart. You're such a fake." I was a little upset that I didn't do well, but I only thought about it, I never acted on it. "I really do think of Colleen as a friend," Emily sobbed, tears pouring down her cheeks. For a moment, the classroom was silent. Then someone finally spoke up. "I don't think that's such a big deal. Melina, you're out of line. And anyway, how do you even know what others are thinking?" But Melina only grew more manic. You've had a crush on Daniel but never dared to say it, just because he's rich and your mom sweeps the streets for a living. And your mom died in a car crash while going out to get you a birthday cake. That's why you have nightmares every night." She pointed around gleefully, eyes gleaming with a twisted sort of triumph. The moment her words landed, Sophie and Jennifer both went pale. Sophie immediately collapsed onto her desk, sobbing uncontrollably. See? Even the most powerful ability, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes nothing more than a cruel weapon. I'd often wondered, what must it feel like to have mind-reading powers, and what must it feel like to be read? For the one who reads minds, it must feel intoxicating. To effortlessly uncover the secrets of those around you, no matter how deeply hidden. But over time, would that power warp your perspective? Would you begin to see others from a pedestal, believing you had the right to judge every thought? And as for those being read, how sickening must that feel? Like swallowing a live fly. No one's perfect. Who can claim to go through life with a heart that's always pure and steady? People have desires. Jealousies. Greed. Fleeting dark thoughts. But as long as those thoughts aren't acted on, as long as they don't break someone else, why should they be put on trial? Who wants their heart laid bare, exposed for everyone to see? I picked up a pen and walked over to Melina. The entire class was stunned into stillness by her unhinged behavior. No one dared approach her. Those whose secrets had been revealed sat in anxious silence. The rest exchanged glances, puzzled and disturbed. I slipped a tissue into Sophie's trembling hands. Didn't we learn back in elementary school that no job is nobler than another? So what if someone's mom is a sanitation worker? That's still better than a dad who slaps his daughter in public. Tara, Melina started, but quickly fell silent. She couldn't read my mind. She had no comeback. I scribbled a number in my palm and clenched my fist tightly, then looked at her with mock curiosity. Aren't you the one who claims to be psychic? Go on then, tell me what number I wrote. If you get it wrong, that means you've been lying all along. The class perked up instantly. Do you think Melina really can read minds? Pfft, she's full of it. What is this, a Marvel movie? We'll find out now. Let's see if she guesses right. She's been acting kind of nuts lately. Maybe she really cracked under exam pressure. Someone even tapped the side of their head, implying she was mentally unstable. Melina bit down hard on her lip as the whispers filled the air. Her eyes burned with fury as she glared at me, then at my closed fist. A long moment passed before she finally said, through gritted teeth, I can't read yours. The room erupted in chaos. Knew it. She's a fake. Oh my god, Melina and her mind reading, this is hilarious. Feigning surprise, I opened my hand and showed the large 38 written in my palm. Melina, this is too much. It wasn't enough for you to falsely accuse me and the class rep on the rooftop? Now you're throwing accusations at everyone else? You owe us an apology. Yeah, especially to Sophie. You made her cry. Melina's breathing turned ragged as she shot up from her seat. I can read minds. I can hear everyone's thoughts. Except for Tara's, and Zachary's. Wait, no, I used to hear Zachary's too, but then suddenly I couldn't, and... Her words spilled out in a chaotic frenzy, completely incoherent. People began muttering again. She's lost it, something's wrong with her, she's mentally unstable. Melina clutched her head and spiraled into full hysteria. You. I did say what you were thinking just now, didn't I? She pointed wildly at those she had just outed. She's lying, I whispered just loud enough. The others caught on quickly. That's not true. I never thought that. Where the hell did you get that idea? Sophie's mom does work in sanitation, yeah, but so what? I've even said hi to her. Big deal. I think you've really lost touch with reality, Melina. You need help. One by one, the voices turned into a flood of rebukes and accusations, all crashing down on Melina. No. I do have mind-reading powers. I do, don't I? I do. A timid girl rushed to get the teacher. Just before he arrived, I leaned in close to Melina and whispered in her ear, you can't read my mind, so do you know what I'm thinking right now? I want to kill you. Zachary and I, will kill you together. I smiled darkly. Melina shrieked and jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. Ah, get away. Get away from me. That was the moment our teacher walked in. Melina threw herself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Teacher. Tara wants to kill me. She and Zachary want to kill me. Zachary and I stood quietly, faces the picture of innocence. After the rooftop incident, our homeroom teacher already had a poor opinion of Melina. Now, with her raving like a madwoman and the entire class murmuring in agreement, he had no more doubts. His conclusion was clear, Melina was mentally unstable. He picked up the phone and called her father again, likely the man had just arrived home when he was summoned once more. I won't go. Dad, please. Believe me. I do have mind-reading powers, they're trying to frame me. Why don't you believe me? You're thinking about that filthy woman right now, aren't you? Her father's face turned grim. He dragged her out, one hand over her mouth. I walked over to the window and looked out just in time to see Melina being dragged away like a dead pig. Suddenly, as if sensing something, she looked up, and locked eyes with mine. I smiled and gave her a little wave. She struggled even harder, eyes locked on me with pure hatred. In return, her father slapped her again. Stop slacking off. I found a few math problems for you to work on. Come here. That abrupt voice instantly froze the smile on my lips. Seriously? Zachary must be sick in the head. I sighed and trudged back to my seat. On our way home after school, just as Zachary was about to say goodbye, I grabbed his arm. The evening light cast a golden glow on his face, his clear eyes flickering with surprise. I stared straight into them. You've been reborn, haven't you? Zachary froze. Then slowly, he smiled, his eyes curving into crescents. How did you figure it out? Simple. I tapped my temple. Wisdom. Back at the hospital, he'd teared up when he saw me. I was reborn, and Melina couldn't read my mind, nor could she read Zachary's. But I died in the real world. Which meant. Zachary sighed and pulled me into a milk tea shop. I only blame myself for not being brave enough in high school. He told me that after the college entrance exams, he had finally worked up the courage to confess to me, only to hear I'd been caught cheating. He never believed it. When he couldn't reach me, he went to my parents. But even they didn't know where I was. One day, at a gathering, a friend's older brother, who worked at a police station, brought up my report. Heard some girl came in spouting nonsense about reading minds. Must have gotten scared after getting caught cheating. But Zachary took it seriously. His gut told him I was telling the truth. Especially since, based on Melina's academic level, there was no way she could get into Peking University. So he started reaching out to Melina. When they met, she was momentarily delighted, but that joy quickly turned to suspicion. You think I made Tara cheat? Even your friend Raymond didn't believe her. What makes you so sure? That was the moment Zachary knew. Because Melina shouldn't have known Raymond's name. After that, Zachary came to her every few days, pushing her to confess. You ruined Tara's life. Can you even sleep at night? Why? Why does she get everything she wants? She's good at everything, everyone likes her, even you like her, don't you? Why won't you ever look at me? Melina broke down, screaming with resentment. Zachary just laughed, angrily. Tara earned everything through hard work. She studied harder than anyone, treated everyone with kindness, and never looked down on anyone. She was even good to you. You. Melina avoided his eyes and ran away. Zachary fell into a slump, until he heard the news of my death. Tara, do you know? When I heard, I just couldn't believe it. You were always so strong, so good, how could someone like you be destroyed? When I rushed to the funeral home, your mother had already passed out from crying. You were lying there quietly, scars still visible on your neck. And people nearby were whispering about your cheating scandal. Saying you'd taken the wrong path. But you were innocent, just a kind, pure girl. Zachary stopped, eyes reddened with grief. Thinking of my parents made my chest tighten with sorrow too. But I forced a bright smile. Hey, I'm standing right here, aren't I? I won't let myself fall into danger again. Besides, with you around now, I feel really safe. The tension in Zachary's expression finally eased. In his past life, after my cremation, he'd lost control. He brought a knife and went looking for Melina again. But Melina now had a tall, thuggish-looking boyfriend by her side, probably to keep Zachary from bothering her. Zachary brandished the knife and once again demanded she confess. Melina screamed. Her boyfriend rushed forward, and the two of them fought. In the chaos, the knife stabbed into Zachary's chest. I probably died then, Zachary said quietly, and took my hand. Thank heaven for giving me another chance to be brave. Tara, no matter what happens from now on, don't ever run away from me. I'll face it with you, willingly, always. In our final phase of high school, Zachary and I formed a study group with other high-achieving students. We helped those who were struggling or had weak subjects. And in the process, we strengthened our own understanding too. Melina never came to pick up her exam pass. According to our homeroom teacher, her mental state still hadn't recovered. Her father and stepmother had placed her in a hospital for treatment. The college entrance exams came as scheduled. Staring at her empty seat, I felt a rush of emotion. Our class performed brilliantly, earning the highest average scores in the entire school. At the celebration party, everyone was buzzing with excitement. Sophie and several classmates came over to toast me and Zachary. Tara, thank you so much. When I told my mom my results, she was so happy she threw her broom in the air. Daniel quietly swapped the wine in her hand for a glass of juice. Kids shouldn't drink. Hey, why don't you worry about us too, Daniel? Amidst the laughter and cheers, Zachary and I clinked our glasses. When the acceptance letters arrived, we went to visit Melina at the hospital. She wore a hospital gown, her face noticeably gaunt. She kept muttering about mind reading. Every time someone passed by, she tried to grab them. Don't go. Let me read your mind. Everyone she touched instinctively pulled away in disgust. When she saw Zachary and me enter, her body went rigid, her face drained of color. Why are you here? She trembled violently, eyes filled with terror. I smiled and placed a bouquet beside her bed. We came to share the good news. Zachary and I are officially together. And we both got into Peking University. We're really, really happy. I leaned in slightly. So now it's time to decide how we'll kill you. Why don't you read our minds and see which method we chose? You wicked woman. Get away. Help. Someone help me. Melina curled up under her blanket, sobbing. Zachary gripped my hand tightly. No matter what power a wicked person gains, they'll always be devoured by their own evil in the end, torn apart by those they've wronged. But we will have a future full of light. Let's go, Tara. Before leaving, I turned back and looked at Melina one last time. She was still cowering under her blanket, trembling like a leaf. Goodbye, my evil friend. Looking at her trembling under the blanket, I finally felt at peace. This time, I had protected myself, reclaimed my name, and chosen love without fear. Whatever comes next, Zachary and I will face it together. My story doesn't end in the dark. It begins in the light.